As tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate, the United States has intensified its military campaign against Iran, framing the operation as both a strategic necessity and a decisive success. Speaking during a high-stakes moment in global geopolitics, President Donald Trump laid out his administration's position, rejecting claims that Washington is seeking negotiations from a position of weakness. The conflict, which began in late February 2026 following coordinated U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iranian targets, has rapidly evolved into a broader regional confrontation. Iran has responded with missile and drone attacks across the region, including strikes on Israel and U.S. interests, underscoring the scale and volatility of the crisis. From the outset, the president dismissed media narratives suggesting that the United States is eager for a diplomatic resolution. He said they are begging to make a deal. Not me. They're begging to make a deal. The statement reflects a central theme of the administration's messaging that Iran has been forced into a weakened position and is now seeking relief through negotiations. However, recent developments suggest a far more complex reality. Iran has publicly rejected a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal while advancing its own demands, even as indirect communication channels remain open. The president portrayed the ongoing military campaign as overwhelmingly successful, emphasizing what he described as the collapse of Iran's military capabilities. He said, "We're free to roam over their cities and towns and destroy all of their crazy nuclear weapons and missiles and drones that they're building." U.S. and allied forces have conducted extensive strikes on Iranian military infrastructure, including naval assets and missile facilities, as part of a broader effort to dismantle Tehran's capabilities. At the same time, Iran continues to retaliate, demonstrating that the conflict remains active and contested. The president also highlighted the pace of the campaign, suggesting that objectives were being achieved faster than anticipated. He said, "We estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. 26 days in, we're really a lot ahead of schedule." Military operations have indeed progressed rapidly, but analysts caution that long-term outcomes, particularly regarding Iran's nuclear ambitions, remain uncertain. At the heart of the administration's argument lies the assertion that Iran must never be allowed to develop nuclear weapons. He said, "You cannot give lunatics a nuclear weapon." This framing reflects long-standing concerns in Washington over Iran's nuclear program, which has been a central issue in U.S.-Iran relations for decades. The current conflict itself was triggered in part by fears that Iran was advancing its nuclear and missile capabilities, prompting preemptive military action. Despite the president's insistence that Iran is desperate for a deal, the diplomatic picture remains uncertain. He said, "I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that." This acknowledgement underscores the ambiguity surrounding negotiations. While the United States claims that Iran is open to talks, Iranian officials have denied engaging directly and have described U.S. proposals as unacceptable. The president argued that any willingness to negotiate stems directly from military pressure. He said they wouldn't talk otherwise. They've got a disaster on their hands, yet Iran's leadership has maintained a defiant stance, signaling readiness for a prolonged confrontation, even as diplomatic intermediaries continue to explore possible solutions. A key strategic element of the conflict is control over the Strait of Hormuz, a vital global oil route. Disruptions in the strait have already had significant economic consequences, contributing to volatility in energy markets and raising concerns about global supply chains. The president linked the reopening of this passage to a potential agreement. He said if they make the right deal, the strait will open up. Iran, however, has used the strait as leverage, threatening further restrictions unless its conditions are met, which has intensified global concerns over energy security. The administration also made clear that continued military action remains an option if Iran refuses to comply. He said if they don't, we're their worst nightmare. We'll just keep blowing them away. This statement reflects a broader strategy, of course, of diplomacy, combining sustained military pressure with conditional offers of negotiation. Recent remarks from the president have reinforced this approach, warning that strikes will continue unless Iran accepts U.S. terms. Senior officials echoed the president's assessment, emphasizing the extent of damage inflicted on Iran's military. He said the Iranian conventional military is effectively destroyed, while U.S. officials highlight significant degradation of Iranian capabilities. Independent assessments suggest that Iran retains substantial capacity for retaliation, particularly through missile strikes and regional proxies. The administration has framed the conflict not only as a national security issue, but as a moral imperative. He said you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. This argument positions the campaign as a defensive measure aimed at preventing a catastrophic future scenario. Officials have also emphasized that the operation extends beyond U.S. interests. He said this is for the world. International reactions have been mixed. While some countries support efforts to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities, others have called for de-escalation and warned of the risks of a wider regional war. The administration has placed the conflict within a broader historical narrative, highlighting decades of hostility between Iran and the United States. He said Iran has been at war with the United States for 47 years. This perspective reflects a long history of tensions dating back to the 1979 Iranian Revolution, including proxy conflicts, sanctions, and repeated diplomatic breakdowns. In addressing domestic audiences, officials also acknowledged the timing of the conflict. He said, "We are about to enter the most important week of the Christian calendar." This message appeared aimed at reinforcing public support while recognizing the sacrifices of U.S. troops deployed overseas. The administration outlined clear operational goals from the outset of the campaign. He said, "We were going to destroy Iran's Navy, destroy their missile launching capabilities, destroy the factories. These objectives have guided U.S. and allied military actions with extensive strikes targeting key components of Iran's defense infrastructure." Officials claim that these goals are being achieved. He said every single objective is being effectuated. While tactical successes are evident, analysts caution that the broader strategic picture remains uncertain, particularly regarding Iran's long-term capabilities and regional influence. The administration has also criticized media coverage of the conflict. He said it may not get covered, but every day we're hitting military targets. This reflects ongoing tensions between the administration and news organizations over how the conflict is portrayed. The global impact of the conflict is already being felt. Energy markets have reacted sharply, with oil prices rising amid concerns over supply disruptions linked to the Strait of Hormuz. Diplomatic efforts continue, but progress remains fragile and uncertain. Officials argue that the long-term outcome will justify the current instability. He said the world is going to be a safer and a better place, yet many observers remain cautious, warning that the conflict could escalate further if a diplomatic resolution is not reached. The administration concluded by reiterating its central argument that the risks posed by a nuclear-armed Iran are unacceptable. He said if they have a nuclear weapon, they could kill millions. As the conflict continues, the gap between rhetoric and reality remains a defining feature. The United States maintains that it holds the upper hand, while Iran continues to resist and deny key claims about negotiations. With military operations ongoing and diplomatic channels uncertain, the situation remains highly volatile, and the outcome will likely shape global politics for years to come.